So, running through this in order, um, everyone just do me a favor and just open up PowerShell. Um, I'm on a Mac, so I can't demo this. Um, in fact, but Chase, do you maybe just want to share your screen actually and just demo opening PowerShell? Oh, Max, thank you. I may take you up on that in a minute. And Chase, do me a favor, close it out and just reopen it from going to the start menu and typing in PowerShell in there. And so, Jack, please go ahead and do this as well. And everyone just do this just to get PowerShell open to make sure that we have it and it's there. Yeah, and Chase, go ahead and open that sucker. So, um, and Chase, do you mind hitting that little box to make this full screen? Perfect. Okay. So I can't use the annotate tool, but everyone look at Chase's command prompt real quick. Perfect. So I know you all are familiar with this, but just to recap, see how that command prompt starts with C colon and slash. Windows organizes things sort of by drives. So that's the C drive, and then the absolute path to this Chase user. Um, Windows file system um, prompts and paths are going to look like that with, C colon or D colon or whatever. And if you see that, it means you're in the wrong spot and you're using the wrong shell. So kind of pause and step back. Because by the end of today, we're going to have it set up so you all can always open up VS Code easily. And everyone has VS Code installed already, correct? Awesome. Chase, do me a favor and open up VS Code. And I think you can do it from PowerShell if you just type code and hit enter. Uh, you can also do it, folks, if you need to, you can do it the other way of just finding it in the start menu or whatever. And go ahead and close all that stuff out. And go ahead and go to, I think it's view, maybe where the terminal is. Not that view, if you go to the top of, oh, no, you're right. My apologies. Yeah, and just do new terminal. And Windows folks, go ahead and do this too. The terminal process failed to launch. If you go to the file menu, go to like VS Code's file menu. Yep. And go to view. No, not in file. Go a little right. Yeah. Try where do they put it? The terminal's all the way down near the bottom. Yeah, go ahead and open that. Terminal failed.
I use Ubuntu, so I don't know if that's making like a difference. Uh,
Because you're opening it from like the Ubuntu shell. Yeah, I would have thought, how do you normally
so the way I normally do it is I just do Ubuntu and
and then
then
you code and then you open it up from here. Yep.
yeah.
So yeah, that'll work great. Okay, this is good for the demo as well, and then I'll walk us through how to do that. Sorry for the confusion. Why don't you close the other one, Chase, and kind of maximize this one? And so if we look at Chase's terminal, and if you don't mind, kind of go down to the terminal so we can take a look at it. So this is where we're going to end up. First off, if you look at the command prompt and go ahead and type pwd and hit enter for print working directory, we can see that this is not a Windows file system path. This is a Linux file system path. This tells us that our VS Code is interacting not with our Windows file system, but with the Linux virtual machine that WSL2 is running for us. And also on this terminal window, all the way over on the right, where there's the little plus symbol and it says bash and stuff like that, click on that little arrow. Yeah. And so, folks, you can see here there's different terminals that you can choose. And I think the one called bash is the one that's correct for Ubuntu. That's for the default. Um, and we will come back to this in a minute because I think, Jack, I want to get you having WSL2 installed and set up so we can all kind of like move at the same tempo. Um, and Chase, actually, if you don't mind, could you stop sharing your screen? And Jack, could you go ahead and please share your screen?
Share screen. This is the screen here.
Awesome. Um, Perfect. And you're in PowerShell already. So go ahead and type the command WSL space dash dash install. Yep. And go ahead and hit enter. So this is actually installing WSL2. As I mentioned, WSL2 is a virtual machine. It completely simulates a whole nother computer down to the hardware level. And inside that, we're running a flavor of Linux called Ubuntu. Right? Did anyone not do this step or is not sure? Okay, awesome. And this is probably going to take us a minute. Uh, can someone remind me how fast this process is? Or not fast?
It doesn't take more than a couple minutes.
Okay. Let's see if this gets done in a minute, or we'll maybe just break and reconvene. Okay. So you're gonna have to reboot. So go ahead
Okay.
and stop sharing and reboot. And yeah, let's just take 5, folks, so that we don't have to sit around. And before we take 5, actually, Chase, do you mind sharing your screen one more time?
You able to see
So
that?
yeah, and go ahead and just close out VS Code for me. And go ahead and just type Ubuntu in the start menu. And go ahead and click on it. So can everyone please do this, even if you know it already works? Because this is the sanity check, right? And the test that confirms that WSL2 is indeed installed. And everyone just give me a thumbs up when you've done that. And Jack, this is what you'll be doing in just a minute. Okay, awesome. Let's go ahead. Let's take 5, and then we'll reconvene, and then we'll pick up where we left off with the Installfest. Sound good? Okay, thanks for your patience, folks, and I'll see everyone in 5 minutes. And I'll, of course, be around here. So you're more than welcome to hang if you want. I think it'll take just a minute or two to walk Jack through the steps, but this way, if you guys want to grab a break or grab some coffee, you can.
By the way, Adam, for when it comes to installing the virtual system, a lot of these commands, do they just sit dormant in, or how does it know where to get the files to install? Or are they just in there? I don't even know what I'm asking.
Yeah, you sort of mean like, where is this coming from? So
Yeah.
that WSL dash install command, that installs this program called WSL 2. WSL is Windows subsystem for Linux.
Mm.
That's a fancy word for a virtual machine that Microsoft has kind of tuned.
Mm.
There's a number of different virtual machine programs out there. Hypervisor, I want to say OpenVM is another. There's a couple others. And like, have any of you ever played like a PlayStation or an SNES ROM emulator like game on the computer?
Yeah.
Well, that's a virtual machine because I can go and I can use my SNES ROM emulator and I can download a Super Nintendo like file from the internet. And the emulator completely simulates a Super Nintendo system down to the hardware. And that SNES ROM with, Chrono Trigger or Zelda doesn't know it's not running on an actual physical Super Nintendo machine, right? It's like sort of inception-y. So that's a virtual machine. And there are these programs like Hypervisor or I think VirtualBox that will simulate not, PlayStations or Super Nintendos, but full-on PCs like x86 operating systems. And it's useful for data center stuff. It can be useful for cloud security stuff, for all sorts of stuff. And so what this virtual machine does is it runs sort of inside, I think it's called a hypervisor, the virtual machine program, a whole nother operating system.
Oh
So
no,
again,
I get what you mean in that sense,
yeah.
but my question is more geared towards. So does these files just sit like I'm assuming in the kennel, or I'm not sure.
Yeah, great question. So, and by files, you mean like the WSL2 virtual machine and Ubuntu and all the code we're going to write in this class?
I more or less just mean these applications that just by us saying install, I'm not sure where
Oh,
it's
like
pulling it from.
Node.js or Postgres or
Yeah,
Python. Yeah.
because it's not like I'm downloading from like the internet and I can obviously know where it's coming from, but do they just sit dormant in? That's where I'm a little bit tricky at.
They
You are
do.
downloading them.
That's exactly what happens. And in fact, if I'm gonna draw some boxes, can you guys see my screen? Here's my Windows machine. And let's say this is the file system, which is all the stuff on the hard drive. And in fact, somewhere in here is the Windows kernel. But when we use a virtual machine, we don't have to worry about that because what ends up happening is WSL2 virtual machine. And by default, that installs this whole other Ubuntu Linux operating system. And somewhere in there, there is indeed a kernel, but that's not even where Python and Node.js get installed. They just live in and let's grab these things there. And we'll say that this is the file system. Where they get installed on the file system is a little outside scope, but they get installed. I think it might be like /user/bin or something like that. But you can go and you can find the Python file. And then all this stuff indeed just sits here when we're not using it. And let's have this be maybe RAM or random access memory. And when I'm actually running an application, it gets loaded into RAM, more or less. And so when I'm using the virtual machine, all this stuff gets moved into here. It's probably copied. and then it's running, and then it gets stuck back to just sit somewhere in the file system when we're done. And that's sort of an oversimplification, but that's sort of a breakdown of where stuff lives. Like when I install Python into Ubuntu, that's not part of the Ubuntu kernel. That's not how like the operating system interacts with the monitor and the screen and stuff. It indeed does live somewhere in the file system. And in fact, on my Mac, if I open up the terminal real quick, and I do which Python, so it's alias to Python is an alias for Python 3. And if I do which Python 3, on Mac, we use this package manager program called Homebrew that installs stuff. And if I go into this directory, I can see everything I've installed with Homebrew. And the same thing when you're using like apt-get or apt on Ubuntu, it will install it into some directory. And so if I went ahead and I deleted Python 3 from here, and I have like a bunch of different versions of it, then I indeed would no longer have Python on my computer. Does that answer your question a bit more?
Yeah, so kind of in a sense, a lot of these operating systems that we're using come with pre-installed. Just, I would say, I don't think frameworks is the right word. I still know what I'm talking about, but they just come with with these things that essentially are made for programmers. The average person is never going to use them, but they're there for, in a sense, if you want to use more of this system.
Yeah, essentially, yes, especially Linux operating systems, but Windows does as well. And also just like, it's sort of like, it's like driving a car versus becoming a mechanic. Like the engine was always there, but now we're starting to poke under the hood and see how the pieces work.
That
Let's
actually
see.
really worked for me.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good analogy. Has Jack rejoined us?
Doesn't the install command search a Linux or a Unix repo for files, download the packages, and install from there? They're not on your system by default.
Say that again?
When you install a command using like sudo install, you're reaching out using
Yeah.
a get request to a repository. It's going to match the file name with the name that you requested. It's going to download it and install it. These things aren't just on your computer by default.
For anything we install with the package manager, that's correct. So Kenny, as to Tim's point, if you did apt-get install Python, this apt-get program is reaching out to a server over the internet to download and install Python on your computer. Same thing with everything else that we install Installfest, like apt-get, install node, and so on and so forth. At the same time, there is a lot of stuff pre-installed, like Macs actually come with a version of Python installed already that we don't want to use, but it's there. So Kenny, you're not wrong that a lot of things are installed, but anything, if I hop over here and I search for apt. So apt's what's called a package manager, and it's a program that we use to download other programs over the internet in a sort of systematic way. So Kenny, anything that we've used apt-get to install was not on the computer to begin with. We downloaded it with apt-get.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense because I was wondering, like, so all these things were just there. It's just we never initiated them.
No,
Now
I see what you're saying. No, we had to, if we used apt-get, we're installing them. They didn't exist.
Got you. Okay, that clarifies a lot more.
Got it. Awesome. Yeah, Tim, thank you for clarifying that as well. Jack, you want to go ahead and share your screen and let's do a sanity test and see if you've got WSL2 up and running?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Excuse me. Got it. Share. On. Share.
Okay, perfect. So you got to enter a username, make it something simple that you will remember. I just recommend Jack. Yeah. Make it lowercase. Uh,
Um,
that's fine if it's uppercase. I recommend just honestly, I would just do password all lowercase. You know what I mean? This is not a password that has serious security implications. And if you're really concerned, you can always change it later, but I think the priority is just not forgetting the password. And let's see, what does the rest of that say? I think we're now good to go, but you've set a username, you've set a password. So you can see you've got the Linux command prompt. And in fact, go ahead and type "who am I?" all one word, all lowercase, and just hit enter. So that gives you your username, right? And this is my sanity check to make sure I'm where I'm supposed to be. And everyone else should be able to do this and also see your username set up as well. So let's go ahead and do you guys have Windows Terminal installed?
Good question.
Yeah, actually, Jack, do you want to share your screen and I can use you as the guinea pig for anyone else who needs to go through this step?
Yeah, is it still sharing now?
It is. I was jumping around. I apologize. Go to wherever the Windows App Store is, and or just if you Google Windows Terminal, I'm sure it will show up. Yep, and just search for Windows Terminal.
It's the same. It's the same terminal.
Oh, it is PowerShell.
Yes.
Oh, my apologies. I got confused by the Installfest step. Okay, then we should be able to, in here, set a default shell and set it to Ubuntu if I'm tracking correctly. I think if you go to settings for Windows PowerShell.
So I like this. There we go. App
No,
settings.
yeah, the terminal is something else. What if you click that little
I
arrow?
believe a drop down besides the plus sign.
Yeah, click on that. Hit settings. Yeah, startup for default profile. And everyone else do this as well. Yeah, change it to, I think it's the first Ubuntu with the orange symbol. Does that sound right to folks? Yeah. So everyone, Windows PowerShell, open it up. Next to the plus symbol, there's that little down arrow. Click on that to go to settings. And just like Jack has here, click on startup and change the default profile to Ubuntu with the orange symbol, which is the company Canonical that runs Ubuntu. Because now whenever we open up PowerShell, it should open up in Ubuntu. And to test this out, Jack, go ahead and close this out and close out the other PowerShell window as well. And just go ahead and type terminal or PowerShell or whatever it is that we need to type into the search bar there.
Yeah, it looks like it did it.
Yeah, I think that did it. I'm a little unclear if terminal is the same program as PowerShell, but I think we're close enough.
Let me try that one too, man. Ah, so that might be different.
Yeah, I did think we did just make this change. You know,
Maybe just having to select it here.
yeah, that'll do it. We're going to be using VS Code most of the time. And, like Chase was showing us, you can just type Ubuntu in the search bar to get you straight to an Ubuntu terminal or use the terminal. If you just type Ubuntu in there in search, yeah, and you click on that, that will do it as well. So folks, I would say, set this default setting in PowerShell, but either get used to just using Ubuntu or using the terminal, something that opens you up in the Linux system, and just do it the same way every time. because that's where the main point of confusion can come from. And Jack, actually, as long as you're doing this, why don't you open up VS Code for me by just typing code and hit enter? And Windows folks, please go ahead and do this as well from a Linux terminal. And we're going to do a little bit of configuration. And now we're going to configure the VS Code terminal to always use the Ubuntu shell. Because right now, if you look at your terminal, Jack, you see how it's using some sort of Windows shell based on the command prompt down near
Yeah.
the bottom of the screen. And in fact, if you look over to the right, it says PowerShell. Yep. So we're going to do exactly same thing. Hit select default profile and go ahead and click on Ubuntu WSL. The Windows subs, yeah, hit install. This must be some sort of VS Code extension related to WSL. Since Microsoft also wrote VS Code, all this stuff is going to integrate really nice. It looks like this has been installed. Let's try, go ahead and quit VS Code entirely and open it up again, type code, and let's see if we get a Linux shell. And it looks like it's also installing something.
No, ma'am.
Let's see here. This does not look quite right to me because I still see that command prompt like mound/c/users. Type pwd for me real quick. Okay, type cd and hit enter. Now type pwd. Okay, so we were indeed using the Linux shell, but by default, it was going to some directory in the Windows file system or where they sort of overlap, which is not what we want. We can see now that we're in the home directory for your user. And as a sanity check, you can go ahead and just type "who am I," all one word, to see that we're indeed in the Linux system because we've got the Linux user here. So we also want to configure the settings for this terminal or shell to always open up to this spot. So go ahead and hit that little arrow by the plus symbol. And everyone else, if you need to do this, please be doing this as well. And I think it's configure terminal settings. No, my apologies. Try select default shell.
Just a second. I believe the arrow on the bottom left, blue arrows. Go all the way, go all the way. There.
Oh,
You could sell, I believe you could select Ubuntu or whatever it's called.
so this is
Just
something
click on
different.
those arrows, I think.
This indeed will connect to WSL, but this is something different. And I'm not quite sure where this configuration stuff lives. That's not only for connecting to WSL, but also if we wanted to connect to open a shell on a computer somewhere else over a network. Yeah, go ahead and close this out, Jack, and just open up the sorry, I didn't mean close VS Code. That was my bad. Close the settings.
How do you close this setting? There we go. Oh,
See
I
where it says
can't
X?
because like this little bar. How do I hide this zoom bar?
Oh, you can just move it around. It's a pain.
Ah, there we go.
Click on the little arrow next to the plus symbol, and we're gonna do select select default profile. Maybe it's there, the Ubuntu WSL. So we already did that. Go ahead and hit enter.
Hit enter.
And go ahead and close the terminal. Hit the little X over there. And go ahead and do terminal, new terminal. I think we're still going to have the same issue. Yeah, I think I know how to fix this, but I actually want to check in with the other Windows users to see if you guys resolve this a different way, if I'm getting something wrong. Like Chase, Max, everyone else, is this what your command prompt looks like when you open up a terminal?
No. From what directory were you opening it in your Ubuntu terminal?
I think
Because code should open it up in the same directory that you were in.
right. Let's it's a good question. Jack, do me a favor. Yeah, type PWD for me. Go ahead and type code, because this is where we did it from. And now if you open up a terminal here, let's see what happens.
So what is new file?
Nope, not new file. What you want to do is, yeah, maybe make this bigger. Yeah, new terminal, exactly. Okay, now it works. So I wonder if, because I thought we opened the other one the same way, but maybe we had changed a setting or something, but it seems to work now. So I think you can close both of these out. And so folks, the sanity test here is, Jack, go ahead and close this window entirely, the Ubuntu. Open it up again. Let's open up Ubuntu again. And go ahead and type code and hit enter. I wonder if it was because we hadn't yet installed the WSL2 thing. And now go ahead and let's wait for our terminal to open up. Yep, we're good to go. Okay, so sorry for that extra step. I suspect it was because when you installed that VS Code extension, maybe we had to restart VS Code or something like that. So now we should be good to go though. Was everyone able to reproduce that step where you opened up VS Code and the terminal is indeed a Linux terminal and it's in your Linux user's home directory? Awesome. Okay, Jack, you're doing a great job, by the way. I realize I'm putting you on the spot. If it's okay with you, I'm going to ask you to just keep driving as I keep navigating.
Yeah, that's fine with me. Learning that
Awesome.
hands-on is cool.
Awesome. I love it. Go ahead and make your terminal a little bigger for me. You can just drag it up. Yeah, and you might as well just hit the X next to welcome. Let's just get rid of that. We don't need to see that stuff. So
I can take it all the way up if you.
yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Can everyone see this okay? Awesome. So now we're going to update this package manager called apt or apt-get. And kind of like you were asking about, this tool basically talks to a server on the internet that just has a giant directory of different programs and downloads and installs them. But because new versions of programs are getting updated all the time, we need to kind of refresh the address book. So Jack, go ahead and type sudo space apt dash get space update. Yep. And so sudo runs a command as root user, and we need to run that. And this is updating apt-get's address book of packages. So it has the most recent addresses, more or less, for the different things we're going to use it to install. And go ahead and hit enter. And everyone, go ahead and run this. It's not going to hurt your system if you've ran it already. And yep, just like you did, type your password. And this is grabbing all the different like URLs of different various packages. It might be updating some as well. Everyone should see something like this, and it should be done pretty quickly. Did anyone run into any issues? Cool. Jack, go ahead and type clear for me and hit enter. Now let's use apt-get to install Python. If you have Python installed, running these commands won't hurt. So Jack, again, the command is sudo space apt-get space install, and then Python 3, all one word, Python and the letter 3. Yep, and go ahead and hit enter. There's a Python version too, but no one uses it Python 3 came out several years ago. The name difference is because so much Python 2 code is floating out there and it's still run for stuff. So they kind of namespace them differently. So it looks like it may have already been installed, which
Yeah, I think I
would
already
be great.
installed Python before.
Okay, interesting, because if you didn't have WSL installed, but you know what? I'm gonna take it.
Well,
Go
I did
ahead.
the guided application process, and I used this when I did my technical interview. I used VS Code, so I already had the Python extension in it.
Got it. Yeah, the Python extension is a little different, but you may have had WSL2 set up. Do me a favor, type Python 3 and hit enter. Okay, so this is what's called a REPL, folks. Read, evaluate, print loop. You can run little Python commands in here. Like if you want to, you can like print hello, or you can say x equals 5 or whatever you want to do. But for now, I just wanted to make sure that Python is indeed installed and running. Go ahead and type exit, open parentheses, close parentheses, and hit enter. And we're calling this function, and now we're exiting the Python REPL. Do me a favor, type which space Python 3. WHICH, sorry.
Sorry.
No, you're good. And this command shows us what directory this program lives in. Okay, so that's the right spot. So you probably have these installed, but let's just run through the steps. Go ahead, hit the up arrow for me. Hit it again. There we go. Yeah. So the up and down arrow will take you through your command history, folks. Control R will search through it. So instead of installing Python 3, just add Python 3-pip, Python 3-pip. And pip is a Python package installer. And go ahead and hit Y for yes. Oh, and we didn't have pip installed, so this is good. So the same way we use apt-get to install Python or Node.js or a database, our Python program will use libraries of Python code written by other people, and we'll use pip to install those. Awesome. Go ahead and hit the up arrow. And now instead of Python 3 pip, let's install Python 3-setup tools, all one word, SETUPTOO. Yep, that'll do it. And it looks like that is installed as well. Awesome. Nice. Now, if we wanted to, we could have put all these package names on one line, sudo apt-get install Python 3 setup tools, and the third one as well. For learning purposes, it's sort of good to go through them one by one. Do me a favor, type pip3 space -- version. And we should have pip3 installed. Yep. And that tells us what version. It tells us where it's installed. You can type which space pip3 as well. PIP3. And that shows us what directory that lives in. Yeah, it's interesting that that's different. I wouldn't worry about that too much. You can also, most command line programs have a -- version flag. Like you can do Python 3 -- version.
Space or no space?
Space. Yeah, for flags with a dash or two dashes, there's always a space. And that's the version of Python we have installed. So what we're going to do next is we're going to create a Python virtual environment, and we need to install a package for that. And I'll explain what a virtual environment is in a sec. So Jack, go ahead and install. It's going to be sudo apt-get install. And then I think try Python 3 -venv. Let's see if that works. We might need to get more specific with the version. Go ahead and hit Y for yes. Okay. This should be a safe command for everyone to run. I did modify it a bit from what's in the Installfest because that was installing what we installed is a package named VENV, short for virtual environment. I didn't want to install it specific to Python version 3.10 because you have version Python 3.12 installed, which is good. What we're now going to do is go ahead and type pwd for me real quick. Okay, perfect. We're in your home directory because this next command, we do want to make sure this gets run in the home directory. We're going to create a virtual environment directory. And the command is Python 3 space -m. This is a flag for module. This lets us run another Python program. Sorry, there's a couple more steps. Python 3 space -m space VENV space default. And we're telling Python to run this Python program called VENV and create a virtual environment directory named default. And go
I'm
ahead
gonna
and
close this
type.
door right quick.
Sorry? Oh. Well, when he's back, we'll see that there's a default directory created in our home directory. And go ahead and type ls.
Oh,
ls. Yep. And that's the directory that we just created. Just for fun, do ls space default. Let's see what's inside there. So we don't have to worry about it too much. Python virtual environments are not as complicated as they sound. The term is way fancier than it is. It has nothing to do with a virtual machine, which is where the confusion lies. In essence, we are going to set up our computer so whenever we use pip to install stuff, it goes in this directory. And then no matter where we are in the file system, when we run Python commands, it will look for stuff installed in here. We'll kind of dig deeper into how a Python virtual environment works later, but that's the essence of it. I create it and then I turn it on, and then everything I install goes there. And when I run Python code, it looks there for different dependencies and packages and stuff. Does that make sense to folks?
yep.
Awesome. So we're going to come back to this command later, but let me just go ahead and paste into the Zoom chat. And I'll read it out to you as well, Jack. To turn on, or as they call it, activate the virtual environment, we're running a shell script file in there named activate. So the command is source. And you can just copy and paste it from the Zoom chat if you want, which to be honest, I think is easier. And I'll
yeah,
just
I'll do
talk
that.
through it real quick. Yeah. Yep. And you can just hit X to close out that little window. So the source command is a shell command that runs a shell script that's basically full of other commands like cd and ls and some extra stuff. So we actually executed a file named activate that lives inside that virtual environment directory, and it kind of did some stuff to our shell. I'll go into the details later, but the main thing is if you look at the command prompt, you see how it says default in front of it.
Yep.
Yep. So that's how we know it's activated. Go ahead and open up a new terminal for me real quick. Just hit that little plus symbol next to where it says bash. Note how there's no parentheses default here. When we turn on a virtual environment, it's only for that specific shell session. So we would have to run that command here again. Go ahead and just type exit, and that will close this shell just so we don't get too confused. And we'll see how we're going to automate this so you don't have to worry about it. Go ahead and type deactivate for me and hit enter.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. No, all this stuff is new. So that turned off the virtual environment. Again, this term virtual environment is way too fancy. It only affects Python stuff, so we really want it on all the time. Go ahead and hit the up arrow for me to get back to that source command and run it. And later on, we're going to modify one of our shell scripts so that this is always on by default, and we're going to do it that way for the first couple weeks.
What is the like color changing here?
I actually have no idea. If you hover over
Okay.
it, what does it say?
Let me see. Show command actions.
What happens if you click on it? Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, it lets you rerun the command, I guess. That's kind of cool.
okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't rely on that too much, folks. I think the up arrow and copying pasting is a better habit. Let me just check in with folks. How are people doing? Everyone at this same point and have the same thing happening in their system? And do folks have any questions? Because that's part of today too, is learning a bit more about this stuff.
If you don't have the virtual environment installed, what does that do to your code if you run Python?
That's a good question. Short answer is I don't know what's involved with installing Python on Windows. It just probably has extra steps, and you will just have to set up stuff differently. Like you can install Python on Windows outside the Linux virtual machine, right? And you can install Node.js for JavaScript on Windows outside the Linux VM, and you can install Postgres on Windows outside the Linux VM. All the code will run the same. You'll just be using different commands to do all the command line stuff. Like the Python language doesn't change and the program still behaves the same way. Plus then of course, like when you have a program that has to maybe interact with the file system to read from a file or write from a file, it'll be like Windows paths instead of Linux. So that's why we kind of get everyone using the VM. So everyone just has the same setup. Does that make sense? Sort of. Does that answer the question a bit, at least?
Yeah, the main reason I asked is that I did the whole foundations of program without the virtual environments. I was wondering, like,
Oh,
how?
yeah. No real difference. Yeah, you're good. Because the when you run a Python program, it's called the Python runtime. That's what like interprets and executes your code. You know what I mean? So it's like if I'm speaking French, well, this is a bad metaphor because if I go to Montreal and I speak French, the dialect is different than I go to France and speak French. But let's pretend that there are no dialects, and anywhere I go to speak French in the world, it's exactly the same. And it's sort of like that with Python. Or programming languages in general. The tricky bit is when your program wants to interact with the operating system, right? And that's where it starts to get different. How are we doing? Do we want to take a short break or keep on rolling for a while?
If we could take a short break, I'd be cool with that.
Yeah, let's do it. I think this is a good time. Let's take 5. And then what we're going to do is we're going to install Node.js. We're going to make sure Git is installed. We're going to set up a shell. We're going to do some shell stuff. And then we're finally going to get to Postgres. And we're actually making really good time, folks. I realize I kind of took us through a couple twists and turns. So thank you for being patient with me. But we're making good time. And Jack, if you're down to keep driving, you're doing an awesome job and I would appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. I'll definitely keep going.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, everyone. See you all in 5. All right. So we've installed Python. We've set up a virtual environment. We're going to come back to that later when we do some stuff to always turn on that virtual environment. But next, we're going to set up Node.js. And Jack, why don't you just type clear and hit enter just to clear the terminal so we have a sort of a clean workspace? Perfect. So Node.js is a JavaScript, they call it a JavaScript engine. And it's the thing that runs and executes JavaScript code outside the browser. What they actually did was they took the JavaScript engine that's in Chrome, the browser by Google, and Google's Google Chrome's JavaScript engine is called V8, like a V8 engine. And someone basically said, wouldn't it be cool if we could use this like outside the browser and maybe have JavaScript code run on the server? Why don't I rip V8 out and like wrap it with some libraries so it can talk to the file system? And thus Node.js was born, which is, I'm not going to go too much into detail, but there's certain features of JavaScript that make it useful for certain things on the back end. So Python has Python and pip. JavaScript has Node.js or just Node. And the term node comes from because it's good for stuff like chat servers and where it's sort of a hub. And not pip, but this thing called npm that stands for Node Package Manager. So that's the first thing we got to install is the Node Package Manager. So go ahead and type sudo space apt-get space install space npm.
All right, sudo space. Can't hold on.
Yep, apt-get.
Sudo.
You got it.
Apt-get. And what are we getting?
Install.
Install.
Yep. And the syntax, by the way, you'll see this with a lot of command line programs. Apt-get, we could give different commands like upgrade or something else. But this command we're giving the apt-get program is install. And then after that command, we give it extra arguments, the same way that when you call a function, you might pass arguments. And so we're telling apt-get we're going to install, and now we're giving it the name of the package that we want to install, which is npm. So just literally npm as in Michael.
He said as in Michael.
Yeah, N as in Nancy, P as in Paul, M as in Michael. Yes, sir. Looks good. And yep, go ahead, type your password and hit enter. And so everyone go ahead and run this as well and hit Y. And Node.js and JavaScript is sort of notorious for there being a zillion and one packages involved with all things. So it's going to install a lot of stuff. And can I just see a quick show of hands, like who is running this command right now as well? Rachel? Okay. Tim? Awesome.
I ran it, but it just said no new installed because it's already the current
Yep.
version.
Exactly. It won't hurt. And so the sanity check I always do after installing something is I use the which command to make sure that it's installed. So which and then space npm. And just hit enter. Because if something went wrong, we wouldn't see this at all, right? And you might as well do npm space -- version, just so we can see what version of npm got installed. Perfect. And really any version of npm, like from 8 onwards, should be fine. Now we need to install a node package using our Node Package Manager. This node package is called N, and it is a version manager for different versions of Node.js, right? And that's not quite the same as different versions of JavaScript, but that's like different versions of our JavaScript engine. And so we're not actually going to use apt-get for this one, though we do need sudo. We're going to do sudo npm install space -g, and that -g flag is for global. You can use npm to install stuff in a specific directory for a project or globally for really everywhere on the operating system for this user. Oh, and we need one more command. Sorry, Jack. Space, just the letter N. Literally, that's it. And go ahead and hit enter. And what did this not like? Oh, good. It installed it. And do me a favor. Just open up the browser real quick.
Sorry, it's on the other screen.
Yeah, I don't think you don't. Or, yeah, and just type npm space N, just the letter N, and hit enter. Yep, and click on that first link there. So this website has a list of all the node packages that have been sort of publicly published for open source stuff. It's always a good idea when you install a package with the package manager to read about the thing that you're installing. So we're not going to read through this now, but I just wanted to point this out to you all so you know that it's there. And my rule of thumb is I spend like 3 minutes reading about a new package because I don't need to go and learn every single detail of N, but I want enough to go from like 0 to 10 or 0 to 20. So that if I do need to dig in more, I know where to do it. And if you guys make that a habit, very quickly your map of the programming world will grow. So I highly recommend it. So we've installed N, and we're going to use it to install the stable version of Node.js. Because there's like the, hottest new experimental version, and then there's the stable version that has long-term support that companies can depend on, and that's the one we're going to use. So go ahead and type sudo space n space stable. Yep, and go ahead and hit enter. And we can see that N is installing Node version 22. It's installed it in a different directory. You can just type N and hit enter just for fun. And you can see that it shows us the different versions of Node.js we have installed, and we can select amongst them. We only have one installed. Go ahead and hit Q to quit, like it. Yep. And now go ahead and type which space node, Node. And go ahead and do node space dash dash version.
Oh, I put extra space in there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, good eye. There we go. And go ahead and type node and hit enter. And just like Python had a REPL, we had one here too, where you could do like console.log hello. And we kind of have that nice autocomplete. Yeah, you're on the right path. Just you can type console, and if you hit tab, it'll in fact tab it out for you.
Dot log, and then it's like a.
Open parentheses. Yep, because we're calling the function, and just put
I'm
hello.
familiar with Python, so
Got it. No worries.
yeah.
Yep. Hello. You can do hello world, the traditional programmer greeting, and that's all you need. And there you go. And to quit this one, you use Control C. And Control C is sort of the shell command line universal quit program. Like if you ever have something running in the shell that you want to kill, Control C sends a quit signal to it. So let me just check in and make sure everyone else was able to run these steps as well and has Node.js up and running. Awesome. Okay, we burned through Node.js. Let's go ahead and install Git. So we're going to use apt-get for this, and go ahead and type sudo space apt-get install space git, Git. Yep, and you just got to put an S in install. Yep, nice. And go ahead and hit Y. Again, if you have Git installed already, this command won't hurt. This next command, if you have Git installed already, the config stuff we're going to do, we probably don't want to change. Go ahead and do git space dash dash version, just as a sanity check, Git.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, perfect. We've got it installed. So, go ahead and let's see. Run the command git space config. And sorry, one more thing after config. Dash dash list.
Full list or just LS?
Full list. Good question. Did I not get the command right? Hit the up arrow. try adding space dash dash global. Okay, interesting. We don't have global config for this, which is fine because that's actually what we're going to do next. It's been so long since I've set up Git from zero. I think I forgot that maybe this doesn't exist yet. Let me just paste the command into the Zoom chat so you can see it as a reference. Do you know your GitHub username?
I believe it's Jack Himlo. Let's find out though.
Yeah, this is a good one to double check because we are about to set it.
Yeah, the dash.
Yeah, so I would go ahead and copy that. And hop back over to the VS Code terminal. We're going to make that J lowercase too, but we're going to do git space config space dash dash global space user dot name. Yep, nice. Space, and then in quotes, double quotes, paste in the username and change that J to a lowercase. Or just type it out, whatever's easier. That looks good. You've got an extra double quote that you can get rid of. Yep, and go ahead and hit enter. And now let's do a very similar command, which is going to be git config dash dash global space user dot email. And let me pause the recording here so that your email address doesn't go on the video on YouTube. Okay, awesome. We've set up the username and the email. We're now going to configure Git's global config to use VS Code when we do things like write commit messages, because it will make life easier. So the command is git config space dash dash global space core dot editor space code.
Okay, git config dash dash global
Yep. Core dot editor
or editor.
space CODE code. And now I think you can run the command. Let's see. I think try git space config space dash dash list space dash dash core dot editor. Let's see if that does it. Yeah, that's okay. You can just cat if you want space dot git config. Okay, so we now have set up Git. Do folks have any questions before we go on to the next step here, which is we're going to do some authentication with the GitHub client? Okay, cool. So there's a bunch of different ways to authenticate with GitHub. I just use an SSH key, but the GitHub client program is useful to have. We do need to install it with apt-get. And so sudo space apt-get space install space gh. And yeah. And if you control A, by the way, will move your cursor to the beginning of the line, and control E will move it to the end.
Okay.
Nice. And again, I recommend, like, not right now, but later, folks, take like literally 2 minutes, Google GH GitHub client, just look at the website for this thing, because it, Kenny, like you were asking about earlier, we're installing so much stuff. I think taking just that little bit of time to see the tools that we're installing helps a ton. Just in the interest of time, I don't want to do it right now. But we are going to now use this GitHub client to authenticate our Git repo, and really our global Git config settings, I think, on our computer with our GitHub account in the cloud. So go ahead, type GH space AUTH space login. Git GH auth login. Yep, and we want github.com enterprise servers for corporate stuff. Go ahead and hit enter. Let me let's see. Do you guys remember, like, have any of you set up GitHub authentication with either HTTPS or SSH?
I think you want SSH.
So
I remember I set it up the wrong way, and then I wasn't able to sync with something before until I fixed it.
well, it's just a question of being consistent because the URLs are different. So it's usually a good idea to pick one and run with it. Jack, do you know, have you set up like an SSH key with GitHub?
I believe that I did, but I'm not sure how to get back to there, to be honest. I'm not too familiar with the GitHub.
Okay, let's try SSH and see what happens. Yeah, you can go ahead, type something absurdly simple that you will, or actually don't type anything. I would just name this like code platoon or whatever you want. Yeah, that's perfect. Something simple. And we want to log in with the web browser. Let me pause the recording. I don't think we're going to see anything sensitive, but just resume. All right, so the issue we're running into here is because we're running this GitHub authentication process inside a Linux virtual machine, it can't talk to Windows to open up a browser. So we just need to copy and paste that URL into a browser window. So let me pause this and then we'll do that now. Record. And you should be able to type in. This next step is going to be new for everyone because we are going to install the ZSH shell and configure our Ubuntu's to use it as the default shell instead of bash. You all want to take a short break or keep on rolling?
I'm kind of good to keep going if everybody else
I'm
is.
good to keep going.
All
Yeah,
right,
it's
let's
fine.
do it. Go ahead and type clear, Jack. And again, thank you so much for driving. So this is going to be new to everyone. So you all are going to want to type along and run this. And it's going to be sudo space apt dash get space install and then ZSH. And all these shell programs end with SH from just sort of convention. Like bash stands for born again shell. ZSH, I honestly don't know what the Z stands for. And it's
Is
sort of a
this it?
newer, fancier one. That's it. Yep. And go ahead and hit Y. And now type ZSH space dash dash version. And everyone else, please do run this command to make sure that ZSH was successfully installed. You have a space
Space.
between, yeah. Nice. Okay. And can I get a thumbs up from everyone that they're able to see the version of ZSH? Cool. And Max, you already installed ZSH. Perfect. All right. So now we're going to set ZSH as the default shell. Go ahead and type which space ZSH. And everyone type this out as well, because we need this path. Jack, go ahead and copy that path to where ZSH has been installed. Right, as to your early question, Kenny, we see a lot of this stuff gets installed in /user/bin. And so it's okay if your path is a little different. I think it's going to be basically the same for everyone, but copy that path. And I'm going to paste in the command here. Let me just talk you through it because yeah, get rid of the A. It should just be CSH. That was a
Okay.
terrible Zoom autocomplete. Yeah, so that stands for change shell. I honestly forget what the -S does. I'm pretty sure it, let's see what it does. Um, it does something, but after it, we need to give the path to our shell, and then we have to give, and I think that's it. So -S maybe stands for setting the path. I'm honestly not sure, but go ahead and hit enter. Okay, so right now we're still using the other shell. Go ahead and type echo space $ and then shell in all caps. So echo is like a print command for the command line. Like if you type echo space hello in quotes, it'll print hello. Every time you start a new shell or open up a new terminal, a whole bunch of shell environment variables are created. By convention, these variable names are all caps, and we want to use a variable, we stick a $ in front. Like if you go ahead and type like in all caps, FOO equals, and then in quotes, hello.
You want a space or no?
It doesn't matter. Yeah, now type echo space $ and all caps FOO. Yep. So right, we just created a shell variable and we just printed it out. So the $ is just how you access it. We're not going to do a ton of this, but this is like one of the fundamental building blocks of working with shells and Linux in the command line. And I wanted to point this out because we installed ZSH and we set it to be our default shell, but this shell program that is still running has not been updated, right? Because when it started, it was using bash. Though apparently maybe it did switch to ZSH. Let's see. No, Echo Shell has still been bash. So what we're going to do is, and everyone please do this, Jack, hit that little X to close the terminal. And if you want to, you can close VS Code entirely and reopen it. But I think just closing and opening the terminal is enough. And yeah, go ahead and reopen VS Code. We'll just want to make sure. Yeah, type PWD for me real quick just to make sure that we're all that are. Yep. Now type echo space $ shell, all caps. Oh. Huh. What did we do wrong here? Because it should. Oh, you know what? This is a different. I think we opened up VS Code in a slightly different way. I'm not sure if you. Oh, okay. Well, I was gonna say.
Oh, I was
Yeah,
gonna go back through terminal and do it.
let's do it the other way. I was gonna say we might as well change it to ZSH on both shells just to avoid confusion. But yeah,
Yeah,
open up
we could do that
Ubuntu
too.
with the
I'm fine with
terminal.
that to avoid confusion.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of avoiding confusion.
How do I move this zoom bar? Do I just drag it?
Yeah, you just drag it. It
Ah,
doesn't
okay.
show up on the Zoom share. Um, yeah, I think do me a favor. So in the terminal by the little plus symbol, click the little down arrow next to it. Bash. Yeah. Maybe this is the step. Go hit select default profile for me and click on ZSH. And go ahead and close this terminal and reopen the terminal. I think, yeah, the command prompt has changed. It says ZSH. Type PWD. Let's make sure we're in the right spot. Yep. And type echo space $ shell, all caps. Yeah. So I think there's two things. Okay. Type CHSH. Type which space ZSH. Sorry, ZSH. Yeah, because I think the issue here is the way in which the terminal was open. Yep. And go ahead and copy that and do CHSH.
SH.
Space dash S.
S.
Yep, space. And go ahead and paste that in. And hit enter. And type your password and hit enter. Close the terminal and open it up again. And let's see how we do. Okay, now type echo space $shell. Yeah, something is odd here. I think CSH is indeed installed because it says CSH there and the command prompt has changed. So I wonder if this has to be a sudo command. Let's try it one more time like this, and I'll see too if other people are running into this.
Do you want me to
Try
try to open up Ubuntu and go through there again?
no, because it should have worked here, regardless of how we set it up. Try sudo space CSH space dash S, and now do space $ open parentheses, which space ZSH close parentheses. So we're taking the output of that command, Z as in zebra, yeah, and we're feeding that in. Go ahead and hit enter. And now go ahead and type your password. Oh, sorry, hit the up arrow. It's got to be sudo space CHSH. Yeah, try it now. And now if you close the terminal and reopen it, let's try this echo shell thing again. And if we may just, yeah, try echo $shell. Huh. Now, let me ask everyone else, is this printing out bash for everyone else, or are you getting ZSH? I don't,
Mine also says bash.
yeah, I don't think we have to restart VS Code.
Mine still says bin bash, and I restarted VS Code. Didn't do
Yeah,
anything.
because this is like, this is more about our Ubuntu Linux settings. Because I just did this with the last class and it seemed to work just fine. So give me just 1 second here. Let me do a quick Google search and see if there's a step that I'm missing. Otherwise, we will come back to this because this is not a deal breaker. This is more of like a quality of life issue. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I think there might be something WSL. Exit your existing shell. WSL. See. Yeah. Okay. Do me a favor. Quit VS Code. Open up the Windows PowerShell. Run WSL.exe. Yeah, just go ahead and hit enter and see what that does. This is the Z shell configuration for new users. Okay, good. ZSH, blah, 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 blah. Quit and do nothing. Exit creating the file ZSHRC. Yeah, type 0. Let's create the ZSHRC. The function will be run next time. Run it one more time. Let's try like the main menu option. Do WSL.exe again. And type 1. Let's see what continue to the main menu does. Okay. Let's see here. Configure settings for history. Configure the new completion system. Configure how keys behave. Pick some of the more common shell options. I think we want most of these. Just go ahead and hit 1 and hit enter. Honestly, I'm not sure. Just hit 0. Let's go for 0 and hit enter. Hit 2 and hit enter. Hit 1 for default options. Okay. Hit 3 and hit enter. I would just hit 1 and hit enter, I think. Emacs or VI. Hit E. That's sort of the default. Emacs is in a lot of places. Remember edits, turn to main menu. Hit 0 and hit enter. Most of this stuff is not going to matter for us. Hit 0 and hit enter. Okay. So I apologize for that mix-up, folks. I think somehow this just escaped us last time when we added this. Because we're running a Linux virtual machine, for some reason we had to kind of restart the whole VM to kick in this change for ZSH. Now let's try opening up VS Code like we were before and see what happens. And if someone else, if we need to, if someone else wants to screen share, I could walk them through that same process again. So I think that's what everyone needs to do is run that WSL.exe to like reboot the VM. And yeah, let's see what we get. Fingers crossed. There we go. All right. So I'm so sorry about that. I'll share the Stack Overflow post I found that kind of clued me in. I realized this.
I got a bit lost on that part.
Yeah, no worries. Do you want to just go ahead and share your screen and we can go through it again? Yeah, because I was kind of debugging on the fly there. And if someone can just grab that link and repaste it, I appreciate it. And I'll get this updated in our Installfest.
The WSL.exe didn't do anything when I ran it.
Interesting.
I'm in the same boat. I still got bash. That's my default.
Okay. Chase, go ahead and run WSL.exe. Let's see what happens. Okay. So what we want to do is we need to create some ZSH startup files. Hit 1. Yeah. Actually, do me a quick favor. Hit Q, because I wonder if I think there might have been a default option I missed. Run WSL.exe again. The recommended by the system administrator and exit. No. Oh, okay. So we do need to do this. Go ahead and hit 1 to continue to the main menu. Go ahead and hit 1 to continue to the recommended options. Just go ahead and hit 0 and hit enter. Now let's move on to the next one. Go ahead and hit 2. And go ahead and we want to turn on completion with the default option. So go ahead and hit 1. I'm honestly not sure what the configuration tool is. Go ahead and hit 3. And go ahead and hit 0 just to remember edits and return to main menu. I think this is a pretty good start. Go ahead and hit 0 to exit and save everything and hit enter. And now if you start VS Code, you should be in ZSH. We're actually going to install this package, Oh My ZSH, in a second. That might just override all this stuff for us, but this can't hurt. And Henny and someone else was saying that running WSL.exe did nothing.
So it doesn't do nothing. It kicks me out of my Ubuntu shell. And
Yes.
sends me back to a Windows command line.
Yep, that's good. Okay, perfect.
I just get a command prompt. I run what the command you tell me, and then it just shows me my quotes username, and that's it. It doesn't show me any options that you went through with Chase.
Okay. Share your screen real quick, Kenny. Let's just see if this worked. Maybe it worked for you. Go ahead and
Yeah, same thing happened to you. Look at your actual tab name. It's not Ubuntu anymore.
okay.
Oh.
Yeah, let's close everything out. Close this out. And close out VS Code. And close out that and close out that. And the browser can stay open. But yeah, go ahead. Yeah, close VS Code for me. In that search bar, in the start bar search bar, just type PowerShell. Yeah, perfect. PowerShell. Okay, type WSL.exe and let's see what happens.
Yep, same thing.
Okay, go ahead and quit this.
So I was getting something like that too, and then when I closed out of my PowerShell and opened my Ubuntu, then the prompts were in there. So if you
Okay.
try opening Ubuntu.
That's a good idea. Yeah, go ahead and close this out and type Ubuntu into the start bar. Yep, click on Ubuntu. Perfect. Let's see what we got. That's not going to work here because that WSL.exe command is a Windows command that we would need to run outside the Linux VM. But go ahead, type echo space $ and then in all caps SHELL. And let's see what it says.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, and then SHELL, all caps. And I think ZSH is indeed installed because we saw that ZSH hint pop up there. And who was saying they were having this same issue as well? Nice. Tim, can you do this and can you run this test in Ubuntu and see if it's got the ZSH shell?
Sure.
Thank you. Kenny, all right, so you are good to go, man. And Jack, if you don't mind, you want to share your screen and we can do the last ZSH step, and then it's probably a good time for a break, and then we can do a little aliasing.
Mine still says bin bash.
Yours does?
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Tim, why don't you share your screen and let's get this sorted real quick, and then we'll move on to aliasing. Because I do want to, I think it will, ZSH does have some nice stuff, and if we can get everyone set up, this will be really good. Okay, go ahead and quit this for me. Can you share your screen and just show the whole desktop? Okay, quit VS Code. Oh no, this is the browser. Close this out.
I just
In that
opened
start
it.
bar, type PowerShell. Yep. Type .exe. Okay. Type echo space $sh. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Type ZSH. Yeah. Okay, so it is installed. try. First of all, let's close this out because I always get a little antsy with the shell stuff. Let's use the Ubuntu shell, right? Okay. And type echo space $ shell for me here, just for my sanity, even though I know it'll say bin bash. Okay. Type which ZSH like you were. And now let's do sudo space CHSH space -S space yeah, and just put that in quotes. Put that in double quotes. I think it probably needs to be in quotes. Yep. And go ahead and type your password and hit enter.
Yep. That's the same thing I did before.
Okay, so this is a different issue. Let's see what CHSH PAM authentication failure means. I am Googling this. Okay, type who am I and hit enter. Okay, I'm pasting something into the Zoom chat. Just copy and paste this in. I'm kind of pulling from a Stack Overflow post. And I'm not sure exactly what this is doing, but it's basically maybe telling the CHSH command to be run for a specific user. And let's see if that works. Yeah, and go ahead and run that. Okay. Type. Man, all right. I don't know what this PAM file is or how it got created, but it looks like it's a file that controls access to this stuff. Or that there might be some sort of other shell password issue. Type cat space /etc/PASSWD. Cat as in the cat. CAT. And then etc as in etc/PASSWD. And we may have to come back to this one. And you need a slash in front of etc because it's from the root path. Yep. Yep. Okay. Yeah, you know what, Tim? I'm finding a couple Stack Overflow posts that point me in the right direction, but I think we'll get too sucked into it right now. So you and I will get this sorted out later, okay? Yeah, and my apologies that we can't get there. Let me take us home with ZSH, and then we'll take a break. Zach, can you go ahead and share your screen? And I'm going to paste this command into the shell, into the Zoom chat, and it's coming from the tutorial for today. And it's installing this ZSH sort of standard extension called OhmyZSH. It uses a command line program called curl that makes an HTTP request to get something from the internet. I'm not going to go into it too much right now, but Jack, just go ahead and copy and paste what I just this last part that I just put in the Zoom chat into your into your terminal. And everyone else, please do this as well. Tim, you can do this as well. It certainly won't hurt. Again, it's coming from the curriculum repo. So if you find it easier to copy and paste from there, I'm making sure the link is there. Yeah, hit Control C. You kind of missed some stuff. I think the easiest thing, Jack, why don't you just open up the curriculum repo link that I shared?
Is that the second one?
Yeah. Just copy it from there. And if you go all the way to the right, see, yeah, you can do it that way. Or if you, yep. This is how I would recommend everyone do it, just for simplicity. And yeah, there we go. There we go. So now this adds a lot of really nice features to Oh My ZSH. It gives the command prompt colors. You can customize stuff and do all sorts of good things. I know we've been going for a while. Why don't we take 10 and then we have some alias stuff to do so that so certain programs start up the same way every time. And then we have Postgres, which is a bit of a big boy, but then we will be done. Does that sound good to folks?
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. And thank you. I know today is a bit of a big day. Let's take a 10-minute break and then we'll reconvene. Tim, if you want to, we can take a crack at this now, or we can do it later.
We can try now.
All right, go ahead and share your screen.
Somebody else is sharing.
Here, I got it. Okay, you should be good to go. So let's see here. Pan error, which is interesting. Let's see here. Okay. Open up VS Code for me. Click on extensions. So if you go all the way on yep, search for live share. Yep, click on that first one. Okay, it's installed. Good. Let's see, where is it hiding? So down at the bottom of VS Code, you see where it says live share, like all the way bottom left. Other one. That's a different live. Paste that link into the Zoom chat for me. Because I'm gonna need to do a little digging, and this is gonna be the easiest way to do it. That your application is closing on port 50. You can close that out. That's something else. Paste into the Zoom chat for me, and I think it should give.
Paste what into the Zoom chat?
I think you copied a live share link when you clicked on that other thing.
Oh, it copied by itself. Okay.
Yeah. If it doesn't paste in, we'll grab it another way. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to request to share in just a second. You can close that tab out. Okay. So let me see about if I can get terminal access here. Enter to type. Click where it says Adam joined the live share session.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything when I click on
Okay, I just wanted to see if there was like a
like an admit button.
yeah, exactly. Because right now I'm in the live share, but is it hanging? What's going on? Let me try clicking the link again. Uh, I don't know what all this walkthrough stuff is. Okay. And for some reason it does not crap. It's hanging. Okay. I'll just guide you through this. Type code space /etc /PASSWD. Okay. So, and let's see. Oh, there we go. Now I'm finally okay. Yeah, my terminal control is just taking a million years. So let me pull up this thing I found because it looks like there's a couple different things that might need to be touched to make this work. Um, so right at the top there, let's see root. Do me a favor, hit like Control F or Command F or whatever the search is, and type /bin/bash. Okay, and hit enter to like cycle through all of them.
Yeah, there's only 3 of them.
Okay, so there's two things I'm seeing here. One is for some reason that path there says /bin/bash/ZSH, and I don't think that's the right path. Because in the terminal, type which space ZSH. Yeah. So let's manually edit that, make it just bin/ZSH.
You want
Yep.
it user bin?
No. Because I am not sure about the format of this, and that stuff before the colon is the user.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'm a little unsure here. So I'm gonna do a little Googling as well to kind of see what the format is here. Yeah, because yeah, let's see. Let's see what let's try /user/bin. Yeah, go ahead and save this and quit.
Failed to save.
because you don't have permission. All right,
So
just go ahead
do
and quit.
should I run that as sudo and try it again?
Yeah, but it's, I think we have to come back to this later, man. I apologize.
All right.
Um, so what I'm gonna have you do, type ls space dash a for me. Okay, we're gonna have you make a ZSH config file, and that way you can put the stuff that needs to go in it, and we'll get it working to actually use it later. But that way you'll have the code and stuff written.
All right.
So, are you in your home directory?
Yeah, I am now.
Okay, type and do ls space dash a for me again, just so I can see. Okay, there is a .zshrc file there already. Perfect. So just follow along and we'll get this fixed later.
All right.
All right, cool, man. Yeah, this was an edge case. I'm not sure how that happened. Maybe from putting a bad path into the CHSH, or maybe there's an edge case here that I missed. I think, are we at 10 minutes, folks? Okay, perfect. Jack, do you want to share your screen and we'll keep on rolling?
Yeah.
Sorry?
No.
Oh yeah. Oh, I've been recording. All right, I'll have to edit this video later. All right, and Tim, you can follow along with this as well. Some of the steps won't work for you, but everything else should work fine.
All right.
All right, Jack, go ahead and type clear. So, and go ahead and type ls space dash a and hit enter. And everyone else do this as well, just to look at these files. If you're not in your home directory, make sure to navigate to your home directory. If you're not sure which directory you're in, use pwd to check. But you should all see a file in here named .zshrc. And if you look kind of all the way to the left, you'll see that in Zach's config as well. And this is the config file for the ZSH shell. Go ahead and drag down your terminal a bit because we're going to edit some code. Yep, exactly. And go ahead and type sudo space code space .zshrc. I don't think we need the sudo, but just to be safe. And you can go ahead and type your password. Why isn't VS Code? Type code and hit enter. Okay, go ahead and close this out. Just type code space .zshrc. With the dot in front, because it's the file name. Yep. And go ahead and you can just hit open. Okay, so ignore the sudo, folks. This is the ZSH config file. Every time we open a terminal or start a new shell, this file gets run. Note that it creates environment variables, such as, say, the color theme for ZSH, which if you want to, you can play around with and change. So I really encourage you all to play around with this stuff. What we're going to do now is add some aliases. So you can scroll just all the way to the bottom. And all the way at the bottom, hit enter to give me a couple blank lines. And add pound, because we're going to add a comment here. And just say like code platoon stuff. Just so you can, when you look back at this later, know what this is doing. And go ahead and hit enter. And we're going to do alias space Python.
Alias space Python.
Yep, with no E at the end of alias.
Sorry, my spelling isn't
No worries. Equals. And no spaces. I don't think it matters, but just to be safe. And that's sort of the shell convention. And then in single quotes, Python 3. And what we're doing is, and that should be all lowercase. So Python 3 all lowercase. So what we're doing is that command line command Python 3, we're creating an alias for it named Python, so that now we can just type Python on the command line and it'll give us Python 3. Let's do the same thing with pip3 and pip. So below this line, alias space pip equals, and then in single quotes, pip3. And we're also going to turn on that virtual environment directory. So not an alias. Go ahead and hit enter. So we have an empty line between the sort of two different parts. And type source space $, and in all caps home / default / bin bin / activate. And remember that source bin activate command we use to activate that Python virtual environment? This is it, right? Except what we're doing is the shell creates an environment variable for us named home. That's the absolute path to our home directory. So this is a really nice, clean way to do that. So does everyone have this added to your .zshrc file? And just to be safe, that I wanted us to put it at the bottom so any ZSH stuff gets taken care of. Go ahead and save this file and then close it. But yep, and you can just do Control S to save. That works too. We can set up autosave as well. Now, close these terminals because that ZSHRC file gets read when we start a shell session. So we need to start a new one. So go to terminal and do new terminal. Yep, exactly. So note that we see in the command prompt default. That's a good sign. That tells us that our Python virtual environment was successfully activated. And go ahead and type which space Python. Right? And there we see that our alias is working. Just for fun, go ahead and type Python. And we can see that indeed Python is up and running. You could run some Python commands in here if you want, or just type exit and open close parentheses to quit. Yeah. Yep, the way it's like, yep. It's a function. Exactly. Exactly. I know there's so much stuff on the command line. And go ahead and type which space pip, PIP. Right. And so now we've just visually confirmed that all of our changes to the config file are good, which I always recommend doing when changing config stuff because it's so easy to make a typo. And so I just want to check with everyone. Was everyone able to run those same commands, which pip and which Python, and see the alias printed out, and they see that their Python default environment is activated?
I'm struggling a little bit. I may have put the alias in wrong. Can you check mine?
Yeah, go ahead and share your screen. And then after this, we've got Postgres, which will take a little while, but shouldn't be too bad. Get rid of the spaces. I can never remember if it matters, the spaces around the equal sign. I don't think it matters for shell scripts, but the convention is not to do that. Otherwise, this looks good. So go ahead and save and quit this file. And now go to, yep. So command, oh, it's misspelled. I missed that. I apologize. Let's open up the file again. Code space .zshrc. And note, by the way, those error messages, it's a dot. It starts with a dot. The file name starts with a dot. And if you just hit delete a couple times, hit it one more time, hit tab. Yep, and you can continue, like you can type 1 or 2 letters and hit tab, and then it'll give you better autocompletes, and you can kind of keep using the tab autocomplete to guide you. And I encourage everyone to kind of force yourself to use the tab autocomplete, because I make typos all the time. And the more we can have the computer do the work for us, the better. So the issue here is just get rid of that E at the end of alias on lines 109 and 110. Yeah, nice. And if you look at those error messages, you can see it pointed you right to the line. We need a little contextual knowledge to interpret it, but it took us where we want to be. Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, there's a typo on line 112 as well. Yeah, DEFAULT. DEFAULT. A as in apple, and then U as in universal. Yep, that looks good. Go ahead and save this file for me. And go ahead and close the file for me. Yep, nice. And let's test pip as well. And in fact, I think we might have, is there an E at the end of pip? Is it pipe 3? Am I seeing that correctly? Yeah. No, there's so many names and different naming conventions, and typos are insanely easy. You all will see when I code, I run my code like every 2 lines. So I just make tons of typos, and it's like, let's make the computer do the work. So I'm visually checking stuff and double checking stuff all the time. Nice. And the other way to test this that's really good is if you do PIP space dash dash version, because then that actually executes that program, right, to get its version. So if you just type pip space dash dash version, that'll sort of be the final confirmation. And now I think you should be good to go.
Yeah, can you check mine, please?
Who is that?
Oh, Morty.
Morty. Well, can you tell me what are you seeing when you run these commands on the command line? Do you get an error? Do you successfully see pip? Like before I check it, tell me what you're seeing when you check it, and let's go from there.
Well, there's just no reaction. It just goes to the next line. So
If you type which pip, does it say like alias to pip 3?
no.
Okay, go ahead and share your screen and let's debug. Yeah, and thank you for letting me know.
Thanks. Screen 1, share. Do you see my screen?
Yeah. Okay, so save this file for me just for my sanity.
It's already saved.
I know, but I have a process.
Control, yes.
And go ahead and close out the terminal. Open up a new terminal.
I think it's the space after the equal signs.
There's no space.
After the equals on alias. There's no space there?
Space there.
Oh, sorry.
Let's nah, no worries. It's good to look for stuff. Go ahead and open up a new terminal for me.
New terminal.
Okay. So something is not right because it says bash and we're not seeing the defaults. Type echo space $shell in all caps.
Oh,
Okay. Type CHSH.
CHSH.
Yeah, all lowercase though. Space dash S. Space. Actually, hit Control A for me real quick, or Control C, sorry, just to kill this line. Type which space ZSH.
CSH.
Yep. Okay, good. It is installed. So let's do CHSH space dash S space $, open parentheses.
Space $.
Yep. Inside those parentheses, which space ZSH. ZSH, the name of our shell. And hit enter. And type your password and hit enter. Okay. Quit VS Code for me. Close this Ubuntu tab as well. Open PowerShell. Type WSL.exe.
WSL dash what?
.exe. We're gonna restart. So this is the name of executable file in Windows for the WSL2 virtual machine. So it's all one word, WSL.exe. Yeah, it's not a command with an argument after it. Okay, well that looks good because we see default. Just for fun, type echo space $shell in all caps.
Oh, space $.
Yeah, so I think we just needed to restart WSL. Close all this out for me. Open up Ubuntu again, and let's just double check one last time in a VS Code terminal. Open up VS Code, just type code and hit enter. Yeah, it's all lowercase. Most stuff that you run on the command line will be lowercase. Every
Okay.
now and then a shell variable will be uppercase. Most of the time stuff isn't case sensitive, but every now and then it is, and it can become a real pain. Go ahead and close this .zshrc file out. Type which space Python. And go ahead and do Python space dash dash version. And which space pip. And which and pip space dash dash version.
Which what?
Pip space dash dash version. Without the which at the beginning.
Without the which?
Yeah, so the command is just pip, and then we're using the version flag to get the version of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which pip is we're using the which program, and we're telling it to tell me the path to where this program pip lives. Pip space dash dash version is we're running pip, but we're telling it I just want to know what version I am. Okay. And we already saw the shell is ZSH. We can see the command prompt change with the arrow 2. We see the default Python virtual environment activated. And we've now just checked both that your aliases are the correct names and that they're working. So you are good to go, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, totally. Jack, you want to share your screen and then we can dive into Postgres?
All right.
And how are people doing? I know it's been a long day. Do we want to keep rolling or take a break?
I'm cool to keep rolling.
All right, let's do it. Go ahead and close out this welcome tab so we don't have to see it. So you can put whatever you want in that .zshr file, by the way. People get really into customizing it. You don't have to, but it can be fun. Postgres is maybe the trickiest thing to install and set up. Go ahead and type clear just to, yeah. And I'm just going to put in the link to the curriculum. And why don't you just navigate to that and just copy that first command there. Yeah, because we're installing a couple different Postgres libraries. We're installing Postgres version 14 and this other Postgres contrib. I'll paste it in here and I'll paste the command in here for everyone else. Just make sure that when you copy and paste it, you get the full command. Okay, hit the up arrow for me. Get rid of the @14. Maybe we just want to install the newest version of Postgres. Go ahead and hit Y. Yeah, I think Postgres got upgraded and we haven't upgraded this. So I think this will work fine. So I do apologize about that, folks. We're just going to ignore that @14 in the Postgres. If you did install Postgres 14, I think all this stuff should work fine. So now Postgres has been installed. Try running sudo space service space PostgreSQL, POSTGRESQL space start. Let's see if that works.
TGURL.
GRE SQL. Yeah, it's a little funny.
RE.
The database name is Postgres, but people will often say like the full name is really PostgreSQL, with like SQL as in the language SQL, standard query language, which we'll learn about later at the end. So you'll hear Postgres. Sometimes people will say PostgreSQL. Space start. Services are how we run programs in the background from the command line. Now let's make sure the service is running. Give me just a second here. Do sudo space service space PostgreSQL space status. Yep. And go ahead and hit enter. Okay. Loaded. It looked like it started and exited. Oh, you know what? Let's try run that same command, but instead of start, do restart.
Right here.
Yeah, restart sometimes boots stuff up. I think we're okay if it's not starting in the background. Now run the status command. Let's see where we are. Okay, I think this is okay. If we run into an issue, we'll see. I think it'll start it back up again when we try to connect to it. Let me double check something real quick to make sure that that we're good to go here. I think we're okay. If we run into an issue, I'll let you know. I'm honestly a little confused if we should have it running in the background or if it'll kind of start it up when we need to. Because the status message is confusing me a little bit, but to be honest, I usually don't. I look at processes running in a different way, so I'm just not used to seeing it this way. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do two things. We need to switch to a different Linux user that the Postgres database already is set up for. Because this Postgres program that's running, think of it as a database engine or a database server. We can actually create a whole bunch of different databases, and we can create user accounts, and we can control which users have different levels of access to different databases, right? So that if we were using this in the real world on the cloud, maybe there's one database for accounting and another for the website and so on and so forth. So when Postgres was installed, it created a Linux user named Postgres. So go ahead, and I'll put this in the Zoom chat as well. Switch to the Linux user named Postgres by doing sudo space-i space-u and then Postgres, Postgres. Yep, and go ahead and hit. You're gonna have to lowercase all that stuff. I apologize. That's the Zoom chat being annoying. Yep, and lowercase, yep, and give that a shot. Okay, and now go ahead and type who am I, just for fun. Right, so as the root user, we have this power to switch and become other users. And the reason we needed to switch to this user is because Postgres is kind of already configured for this user to connect to our Postgres server running on our computer. We use a program, a client program called pSQL, and it's just PSQL. So just go ahead and type pSQL and hit enter. And did this step work for everyone? Awesome. So we are now running the pSQL client program, which is connected to the Postgres server running on our computer. In a real world situation, the Postgres server might be in the cloud, and we could still use pSQL on our computer to connect to it over the internet. But in this case, we have both of them running on our computer, a client and a server. And now that we're here, we are going to make our lives easier when using Postgres. Do me a favor, Jack, and click to the other terminal. You see how there's two terminals under ZSH and sudo? And everyone, if you don't have a second terminal, hit that little plus symbol to create a new one. And go ahead and type who am I in this one. And everyone do this as well, because we need to grab our Linux usernames. So copy your Linux username or write it down somewhere and hop back over to the other terminal. And now we are going to create a user with this username. So let me type it into the Zoom chat. And my apologies for the anything that's in the wrong caps. Give me a sec to type it in so people can see it, and then I'll read it out to you as well. And we don't need sudo in here because we are inside the pSQL program. So we're running this in the shell. Actually, let me just copy it from the curriculum. I don't know why I'm typing all this stuff out. So I'm going to paste this in, and I'm also going to read it out to you, but I'm also going to tell you guys a dirty secret of pSQL. You don't need to type stuff in all caps. The all caps is just for readability. So you can type all of this lowercase. So go ahead and type create space role space Jack. And so everyone, this is where your Linux username goes with space login, space super user, space inherit, space. Yep, exactly. INHERIT, create DB, all one word, space create role, all one word. And stick a semicolon at the end, and create role is all one word, no spaces. Yep, and you just need an E between create. Yep. So folks, you may just want to copy and paste the command I put in and put a semicolon all the way at the end, because the semicolon is what tells pSQL to execute this. If there's no semicolon and we just hit enter, it'll just wait for us to type more stuff until it finally sees a semicolon. And what we're doing here, yep, exactly. Nice. We are creating a role, a user account that's the same name as your Linux username, that has super user permissions, that has login permissions, and permissions to create a database and create roles. Go ahead and also type create DB, all one word, and then Jack. And for everyone else, this is going to be whatever your Linux username is. And stick a semicolon on the end and hit enter.
Jack, I put a colon.
Oh,
So
I'm so sorry, guys. Wrong command. The command is create space database space Jack, and then a semicolon at the end. Create DB is the command line version of that, but inside pSQL, there we go. And now go ahead and type / lowercase l. Other slash, sorry. Yeah, whatever kind of slash that is, and just hit enter. So this shows you all the different databases. And now if you do /lu and hit enter, try /u. Maybe it's u. Try / question mark, because I always forget this. It's /du to list the users. And you can hit Q to exit this. Yep, /du. So the pSQL syntax for this command stuff is really wonky. And now, does everyone have a database that's their Linux username and their Linux username is a super user? Did anyone run into any issues here? Because this is going to be by far the easiest time to debug any issues. Okay, awesome. Go ahead and type /q.
Or
Yeah, that always confuses the heck out of me. And now, go ahead and type psql space -d space Jack. So we're telling pSQL to connect to a database named Jack. And let's do -U username space Jack. And go ahead and hit enter. I think I missed one command there, maybe for logging in. So give me a sec to check that. I think that one's on me. I don't think you did anything wrong here. Give me one moment, folks. Um, try psql space -U space
Whoa.
Jack. And let's see if that works. Let's see here. We should have the right permissions. Try, you know what, we might need to restart Postgres. Try sudo service PostgreSQL space restart. And everyone please run this command as well.
I'm sorry, what after service?
Sudo service postgresql space restart. And oh yeah, it probably won't let you do this as the Postgres user unless you type your password in, which is like, I think it's just password.
Yeah,
But-
it was just password.
Okay. Yeah, did that work if you type in password? I'm actually not sure if we have the sudo permissions for this.
No, it's not working.
Yeah, go ahead and hit Control C. Go ahead and type exit. You don't need the
This-
open and close parentheses. It's a different exit command, which is confusing. This logs out of the Postgres user, and now we're back to our root user. And if you type who am I, you should see that you all are back in root. So everyone, let's go back to root. Now let's try sudo service PostgreSQL restart. Because now we're the root user and we have full permissions again. And let's see if this works. And go ahead and hit enter. Now, do me a favor, just type PSQL and hit enter. Let's see if this worked. Okay, good. So I kind of wanted to show you guys something extra, but this is the important thing. Does this work for everyone? Was everyone able, you exited, so you're back to your root user, you restarted the Postgres service, which I think reset a config, and if you just type PSQL all by itself, you're connected to Postgres and you're connected as your Linux username?
After entering the password, what are we supposed to do? I'm having a little bit of trouble because I don't remember my Postgres password.
The Postgres password is just Postgres by default, but the thing to do is if you type who am I, what's your username right now?
Let me share my screen real quick.
Yeah, go for it. And I'll explain what we just did in a moment as well. Go ahead and hit Control C just to kill and to exit this.
Control C. Oh, perfect. You said,
Yep.
who am I?
Yep. And you're still the Postgres user. So
Yep.
go ahead and just type exit. You don't need close or open parentheses or anything, just exit. And this will log you out as the Postgres user and bring you back to root. Now try sudo space service space PostgreSQL space restart. And that was my bad, folks. The default password for Postgres, I think, is just password or Postgres. But the Linux Postgres user, I'm not sure, had permissions to do this. So it makes more sense to do this as root.
Sudo service Postgres. What else?
Yep. QL at the end. Yeah, because we have to use the full package name. Postgres QL. Postgres, all one word. So you've got the Postgres there. You just got to stick a QL at the end of that word. Yeah, exactly. Nice. Space restart. Yep. And we'll give it a moment. And now just type PSQL. Yep, you're good to go. And you can go ahead and type slash and whatever the heck direction that is. I always get forward and backslash confused. The less intuitive slash direction and Q. Yeah, that one. Is that a forward or a backslash, folks? Someone help me.
It's a backslash.
It's a backslash. Okay, backslash Q. All right. Awesome. And folks, I think so there's a little bit with VS Code that I'll walk you guys through, but we've basically completed Installfest. Awesome job. and Postgres is by far the trickiest bit. Let me just walk you guys through what we just did. I realize everyone hates the bright color theme. I apologize if it's burning your eyes. Can everyone see this okay? And can everyone see my screen? And is it the terminal? Awesome. So I'm on a Mac, but all this stuff works basically the same. My username is Adam C. When we connect to Postgres with pSQL, there's actually a whole bunch of arguments we can pass it. A database name, and it defaults to whatever your Linux username is, as well as a user itself. So that says Postgres, connect me to the database named Adam C. This says Postgres, connect me as the user Adam C. Note that if I don't specify a database, by default, it looks for a database with the same name as my username. If instead, say I wanted to connect to a database named, Chicago Salaries from some workshop we did. And let's actually use a different database name to make sure I get this right. Oh, let's try cars. So this command connects me as the Postgres user Adam C to a database named cars. If I do this, it connects me as the Postgres user Adam C to a database named Adam C. And I think this should work for everyone now. Do me a favor and give that a shot with your Linux username, not mine. Let me know if it works or not. If it doesn't, that's okay. And so when we did sudo, what was it, -i-u Postgres, I'm totally getting that command wrong. The command was, oh no, it was. Maybe I don't have that user. I don't have that user because I've installed Postgres differently. But when we switched to the Postgres user and we typed pSQL, it was doing this. It was connecting to Postgres as a user named Postgres to a database named Postgres. And because pSQL's behavior is by default, if you just give a username, it looks for a database with that same name. And if you don't give a username at all, it uses your Linux username. By doing those extra steps we just did of creating a Postgres super user with the same name as our Linux username and a database with that same name, we made it really easy to connect to pSQL because now we have a database and a user with that name. So I can just type pSQL and those defaults are applied and they exist in Postgres. Does that sort of make sense? I see some thumbs up.
This may be a little bit out of scope, but what is the point of Postgres databases? I'm assuming we're gonna mess with that later.
We are going to mess with that later. Yeah, we're not going to touch it for the first 5 or 6 weeks. But the database is, think about Amazon. Think about all the different products you can buy on Amazon, how much they cost, all the information about the products. And this is an oversimplification of how Amazon does it in reality. But, all that information is data and it's constantly changing. And you store that kind of data in a database because databases lets you do things like say, all right, this column for price always has to be a dollar value and stuff like that. Like we'll see it sets up all these rules and it's really designed to work a certain way. It's sort of like spreadsheets on Fire. like super powered spreadsheets in a lot of ways. And so that's the, and there's all sorts of data out there. And with a lot of the simpler programs, it doesn't matter. But when you have a larger program and a huge amount of data that's constantly changing, and you've got maybe a web application, then having a tool like a database starts to matter more. Yeah, great question, Kenny. Thank you. Does that help answer it a bit? Awesome. Okay, let's finish this off with a little VS Code, and then we can call it a day. Let me bring my VS Code front and center. So, VS Code. Go to View and Extensions. And by the way, like the easiest thing to do is I usually have like the Explorer open all the time. I'm not sure why they were hidden now or where they went. Oh, now they're at the bottom. I don't know why they got moved to the bottom. For most of you, I think they're going to be on the side. But there's this icon here. If you can kind of see where my mouse is, that looks like building blocks. We're going to install a couple extensions. I think most of you have this WSL extension installed already. The next one is going to be live share. Excuse me. If you just type in live share, the first link should be from Microsoft with 19 million downloads. Go ahead and click install. Everyone find this and click on it and install it. Awesome. And let me show you what this does. I'm just going to open up a file. So it's hiding, but you all see where my mouse is down here on the left next to this live share button. You all got a bit of a preview of me and Tim trying this before, and frankly, it didn't work. But you can invite others. And now, if you click on that link I put in the Zoom chat, it should kind of prompt you to click some stuff and open you up in VS Code. And hopefully you should then be able to edit my file. And thus the name live share. And if someone wants to go ahead and do that, let's give this a shot real quick. And I think is someone
Says it's waiting for host approval.
let's see. Now I just need to oh, that's GitHub Copilot. We don't need that. I talked such a good game, and now I need to figure out where the heck I go in live share to approve this. I apologize, guys. Let's see here. Shared. Yeah, this is killing me because I used to know where to go to do all this stuff, and I feel like their UI changed. And I can't figure it out now for the life of me. There we go. All right, Tim, it's working for you?
Yeah, it appears to.
Okay, awesome. I'm not sure if I have to approve something or not, but you guys can see it and get the idea. This is really good for pair programming. So it's good to have installed and ready to go. I also recommend live server. So if you just search for live server, the first search result by this guy, Ritwick Day, that has 60 million installs basically, go ahead and install that. And what that does is let's say I have an HTML file. And I don't know why that I have
You're missing
something.
doc type.
Where do I even put?
It's the top.
There we go. Thank you. I can use this live server program, which is hiding over here. If you look all the way on the bottom left, that's live port. There we go. This one hiding over here on the bottom right, go live. And I think I have to choose a folder. Open a folder or workspace. So let's open my directory with all my code. And it'll look for, man, is index.html in here? So I have to do a little more fiddling than I thought, but now let's try go live. And it opened it up in a different port. But finally, after a little bit of fiddling, once I opened VS Code in the right directory and made sure there was an index.html file there, it spins up a tiny little web server. And as I make changes, I can see them there. So it's a very useful tool. The last extensions I want to show are something called Black. And this is the name of a Python formatter. And go ahead and install this. And this will automatically fix not bugs in your code, but like indentation that's wrong or stuff like that. And it'll tell you if the format is wrong. Because what I can do is by hitting Command Shift P. I think it might be Control Shift P on Windows. Someone can confirm. But Control Shift P opens what's called like the command prompt for VS Code. And I can do things like change the color theme here. A lot of the extensions you install, you can do stuff from here. But most importantly, I can run this command format document which is also like Shift Alt F or something from here. And it will fix, like, let's say I've just written like code the way that I really should not. Because you'll find that having stuff be organized is incredibly important. It will fix that for me and have everything in a proper format, which is actually incredibly important for software development because when your code base gets bigger, you need consistency. And you will see me and Francisco be extremely persnickety about code. Now, you might need to run this command, or it might be prompted to do this command, select Python interpreter. And let's all do this now. Has everyone found the command palette and is able to use it just to double check? And let me,
Yeah, Control Shift P worked.
okay, perfect. I've got a zillion windows open at the moment. I apologize. So I kind of lost the Zoom grid with all of you, though I'm trying to pull it back up. There you are. Awesome. So if you type select Python, interpreter, at some point you should get this Python select interpreter option. Go ahead and hit that. And it's going to, I have a ton of virtual environments from stuff we don't want to do create virtual environments. If it says selected interpreter slash default slash bin slash Python, you're good to go. Do people's interpreters say that, or do they say something else?
Mine says user bin Python.
Yeah. So we want it to look in our virtual environment directory because we can have different versions of Python in different virtual environment directories, but also that's where we're going to install all sorts of packages. So go ahead and click on enter interpreter path. And now here in the terminal, go ahead and type which space Python 3. And it should say something like this, and it should be the Python inside your virtual environment directory. And go ahead and copy that and paste that path in and hit enter. And I think that should do it. And now if you were to use the black formatter, I think it will work for you because otherwise it does say like select Python interpreter. And now, did that work for folks? And if you go to select Python interpreter, is the selected interpreter now like slash default slash bin slash Python 3?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
How do we pull up where you're at right now to have it drop down the
Yeah.
specific one? Because
Control
I'm a
Shift
little bit
P
trouble with that.
and then just start typing like Python and you'll see a lot of different options. You can use the arrow keys or just with the mouse, click on select interpreter. And then if selected interpreter doesn't say slash, if default slash bin isn't in there, hit enter interpreter path. And then in the command line, you'll want to type which Python 3 and copy that whole path in and paste it in and hit enter. Does that help?
You said at the top, put select P. What else?
So, you know what? I think the easiest thing is when we wrap, I can just do screen shares and I can guide
Yeah.
people through it. Because this one does get a little wonkier. Let me just finish walking you guys through one or two other extensions and then we'll be done. Though that one, the black formatter is super useful. Another good one, this is more for JavaScript, but search for prettier under the extensions. And there should be this one called yeah, it's I think just plain old Prettier, I think is the one to do. Find Prettier and go ahead and just click install on that. And then you can use that same format document command on JavaScript files, and Prettier will format it for you. And I think those are the main extensions to be installed. So let me just check our curriculum docs to see if there's anything else. And these, like, once you start using these, it'll make more sense too. You can another thing you guys can do if you want to is if you do control